And Four Seasons got out of the property and it sent me to Big Island, Hawaii. And, you get to Big Island, Hawaii, and I'm talking to the chef. I was executive sous chef, so I was like second in command running the fine dining restaurant. And, it's like, well, we need to order on Mondays and on Wednesdays because we get a container from the mainland on Wednesday. We get a container from the mainland on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
No, everything comes by boat from the mainland. Like even like the carrots and stuff. Yeah, like everything. I was like, we live on an island that has 13 climate zones, and there's everything from aquaculture to... So I started to research.
Mm-hmm.
And within 6 months of being there, created an all Big Island menu.
Wow.
So our entire menu was including from salt to olive oil, everything with flour, everything was produced on Big Island. And it was really exciting.
Did anybody follow suit over there? Because that's incredible.
Now it's like
it's the norm.
It's the norm.
Yeah.
Right? But this is we're talking about still 15 years ago, right? This is my first gig after leaving Europe is Hawaii.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty extreme change to go
difference.
To go from Berlin to Big Island.
Yeah, yeah, brah.
and it was the first time in my life as a chef that I enjoyed my life more out of the kitchen than inside the kitchen.
Huh.
Which was an interesting sort of parting of the waters for me personally, which is a big reason why I'm here today.
In Mexico.
In Mexico, cooking inside of a vineyard, making wine, growing food, living where I want to live as opposed to where the job is.
Yeah.
And that's when you start to realize that quality of life has way more value than dollars in your pocket.
But do you think that you were working for dollars early on, or were
never?
Yeah.
Never. But a lot of people do make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
which is not it never works out.
It if it works out, it always has some sort of side effect, some sort of a collateral damage to it.
I know a lot of rich people. Most of them aren't happy.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But yeah. So let's talk about Hawaii. How did you transition from there to here? Because
that was easy. I moved from Hawaii to Cancun, and it's like, it's the Federal Express calls you in the morning and say, "Do you really need this package today?" I know it says overnight, but dude, is it okay if we bring it by tomorrow?
Uh-huh.
It's to kind of go, oh, this is a different way of telling time.
Yeah.
There are things more important than work, and if the fish are biting, or the surf is up, or it's harvest time, or there's so many more things more important than showing up to work on an everyday basis. And then you start to realize what those important things are. And if you can apply those important things to your everyday life and your everyday business, all of a sudden your everyday business takes on value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure, for me. I mean, that's why I'm here interviewing you with a glass of wine in my hand.
Right? This is work, right? I'm on the clock technically.
Yeah, this is how it should be. You've talked about being a fisherman before.
Right. That was the original reason I moved to Baja.
Yeah.
I moved to Cabo originally. It was a place where I could get paid to fish and paid to cook at the same time.
Did you start fishing in Hawaii, or?
I'd always fished my whole life. My grandparents and uncle lived on the east coast of Florida, so I helped. My uncle was a big tournament fisherman guy, so I was always helping him. Learned a lot about saltwater fishing from him, but I wasn't a billfish guy until I moved to Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
And then I moved to Hawaii, and I found this captain that, the cool thing about working at the Four Seasons and my job is I could determine my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to start working until 1 o'clock every day. And the guy that I was fishing for, we did a lot of half-day tours. So I'd get on the boat at 6 in the morning, rig the gear, the captain would come on, we'd fish for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, come back, I'd wash the boat, and I'd go to the hotel. And then when we had full-day charters, that's when I scheduled my days off. So I'm fishing 6 days a week for free, but all I wanted is just pay me with a new knot every day. Pay me with another piece of knowledge that I can use. Pay me with, when I lead her this way, you're going to rip your fingers off. If you lead her this way, and so
you learned.
You learned, and it was this phenomenal everyday fishing school that you can't read that in books, right? And it's there's something really exciting about leading an 800-pound freaking marlin.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and making it a fair release and tagging it and getting the picture of the fish in the water and so I've been really, really fortunate to be next to. Maybe fortunate is an overstatement. I think to be successful at anything, you need to surround yourself with people who are successful at what they do.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do. You want to be a great fisherman, you need to be around phenomenal fishermen.
Yeah, sure.
Always be around people who are better than you are so you continue to improve.
What I think is amazing that most people don't have this quality about them is that you've been willing to do it at any cost. And what I mean by that, you've done it for free. Let me cook for and work for you for free. Let me fish with you for free. And you made the sacrifices to be where you're at and have those experiences that you have. I think a lot of people might walk into your beautiful restaurant here and just think, oh, he's here. It was
just a bunch of hay bales.
Life was easy, but life was easy for you, right? Because they sit down here and they have an incredible meal, and they must think, oh, well, what did this guy do to be where he's at? Well, what they don't realize, you did an awful lot. You gave an awful lot in the right places.
Well, and you know what? It doesn't. Equations. I mean, if you study math at any point in your entire life, there's input and output. Computers, what are they? If there's no input, there's no output. An equation is called an equation because both sides are equal.
Yeah.
Right. So what goes in is equal to what goes out. And if there's nothing going in, well, then what's coming out is nothing.
Sure.
So unless you invest personally your time and your efforts and your spirit and you're not getting anything on the right side of the equation. There's nothing for you. If you just want to receive without giving, and I see a lot of and I get frustrated. A lot of the younger students coming out of cooking school, the phenomena of the Food Channel and the Food Network and all these reality shows and competition shows, and so they come out of I'm the next Gordon Ramsay. I have a degree in cooking. You need to call me chef. I said, dude, you just spent 3 years learning how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
This is day one.
Yeah.
And I love it when they come into the restaurant. It's like, I'm applying for a sous chef position. Really? Yeah, I graduated yesterday. Right on. Cool. I have a seat over there. I'll be with you in 5 years. And it's just what has happened with the speed of the world. I think is it's helping us to forget craft. It's helping us to learn how to use our hands. It's helping us to forget about maybe I forgot our word. The speed of the world is helping us to lose the craft. Did I say that?
Yeah,
okay.
I understand what you're saying 100%. But what's interesting about that, and I agree with you, by the way, that there's so much desire for craft from the general population. I think a lot of that comes from we've got our computers and our iPhones in front of us, and there's no craft to that, and we can get everything so fast. But the brands that understand craft and the places that understand that, they rise to the top. But nobody wants to do the work to get there. Feels like that.
It feels like that in some places. But, you look, and there's so many, there's so much going back to what the basics are now for the first time. There's foundries opening and blacksmiths.
I love that.
And, artisan furniture makers and leather workers and, all these trades back to small butcher shops and, things that basically, because of our broken food system or advanced economy, have been mechanized or industrialized and have sort of eliminated what, really the humans are born with hands.
Yeah.
Right? And they're born with eyes, and they're born with creativity and the ability and muscles and the ability to manipulate steel and iron and wood and all these other things. And, robots can do that. So, we don't need him. We got a robot to do that. And, even just in kitchens that have stopped making chicken stock and started using powders.
Yeah.
We're probably not. We're probably getting too far away from just say yes, but
but it's so
just say no to powdered chicken stock.
Well, it's so interesting. It's a great topic of conversation. It's funny because last week, my neighbor, he's putting a spa in, and he had to dig a ditch for the electrical lines, right? And he's like, I'm going to hire a guy. I'm like, hey, I'll do it for you. He goes, you don't want to do that? No, actually, I do. He goes, no, I'll just hire him. I said, no, I actually want to dig that ditch for you. It was 15 feet, right? But I wanted to feel the tool, dig the ditch, take my shirt off and provide something for him that he needed done. And I had the time, and I think we all forget about what it's like to pick up a tool and do something.
Yeah, but I think in the end, that's why we don't really race to go fast. We just race to get out of that car dirty. Right?
Yeah, we show off. So listen, I know we spent some time on your backstory, and I love it. Tell us about your restaurant. We're sitting here. It's I've had some incredible meals here already in a short period of time, but tell us about your restaurant and how this started and why it's so great, because it is.
Well, you're going to call it great. I'm not, because that's not what we do.
That's okay.
We just invite you to come and experience it. The restaurant's name is Deckman's in Mogor. It has been, as of the 17th of July, 6 years in existence. I've lived in Mexico 14 years. I'm now a Mexican citizen, which is cool. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that is cool.
That's pretty
Congrats.
good for me. I moved to the Baja 13 years ago, more or less, 12 and a half. Started working in Cabo, visited the Valley for the first time 10 years ago, totally fell in love with it. Just slowly increased my presence, some guest chef stuff, some consulting. Ended up being a culinary consultant for Ura Costa for a couple of years here. And basically we got to the point where, I wasn't really needed and I really didn't want to be there anymore. On a totally friendship-based, it just wasn't. They had grown and I'd grown, and we just needed to move on. And the owner of this ranch, Natalia Badan, had been a friend for quite some time.
Right.
And so I showed up, and I asked her if I could invite her to a cup of coffee. I was at the time I had a restaurant in Los Cabos, but I wanted to do something here. This is 7 years ago, and there's nothing. It was Laja, which is a phenomenal restaurant, still my favorite restaurant here. There was Silvestre, which Benito Molina opened, which was the original Campestre, and that was about it. And so I just wanted advice. What do you think, Natalia? Do you think there's a chance? Do you think that this is? I really want to be here in some form. I want to do something, but is this too much of a risk? Do you think I'm making a mistake? And it took about 10 minutes, and her response was, "Why don't you set up underneath my pine trees?"
Yeah.
And so when we got here, there was only, and I'm motioning with my hand on a podcast as if all of you can see the pine trees behind me.
I see you, bud.
And so when we started out, the idea was, so Natalia and I walked around for 3 days probably and did sort of this Feng Shui experiment where we sat in one corner and kind of looked out and tried to imagine where the guests are going to come in, where they're going to go out. What's the predominant wind if we're going to do – and the wood-fired – so everything we do is wood-fired. We only use firewood. We don't buy charcoal. We don't use gas. But the reason for that is I wanted this 100% integrated experience with the ranch. It wasn't that I want to build a wood-fired kitchen. So had the ranch produced natural gas, we might have a gas stove, but the ranch doesn't produce petroleum products. But the ranch has a lot of firewood. Right. So that's where the wood-fired thing, and I ended up really, really liking.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's back to the basics, obviously. So the first year we opened for 2.5 months,